Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to strawberry fields. There's a tremendous amount of labor and learning in the production of a delicious, mouth-watering strawberry. All the food that we eat is the manifestation of labor and learning. Not only did my grandmother, a picker, feed me, she helped feed countless families. And just like that, a story begins. From the moments of the first fire, as humans heated food, they nourished more than their bellies. Around the hearth, they shared their successes, their origins, their stories. These are examples of what Professor Michael Cole calls our cultural inheritance. Indeed, stories travel across time and space and are ingrained into the dreamscapes and the very architecture of our existence. Stories, they're our lifeblood. So in this respect, our project was about learning how young people read and write the world. Certainly, we wanted to build on and amplify their cultural inheritance, while also making links to academic disciplinary knowledge. To help the young people do this, we simply asked them to do one thing: play. Vygotsky reminds us that play is a leading human activity. It's a rich zone of learning, where we can stretch our imaginations and overcome constraints. Play is a fertile ground for resistance work. It's also a site where young people can historicize and learn a dilemma's history and why it has such salience in their lives. The process of writing books became an opportunity for young people to share how they overcame dilemmas. We fundamentally believe, following Professor Chris Gutierrez, that within the ordinary, there are extraordinary moments of learning happening. We center equity in our work, and I really want to be clear about what I mean by equity. Equity is about social transformation. We believe that teachers are cultural workers, to appropriate Balafrede here, and that they should leverage and build on young people's cultural tools, their inheritance, to chart new futures where dilemmas are overcome. In this sense, following the work of the Prolepsis Design Studio, a research group that I'm a part of here on campus, we think that it's imperative to see learning anew and to design for its expansive potential and social transformation. Now, this affects all of us because any change in human activity is a pedagogical exploration. Any change in human activity is a pedagogical exploration. Now, Professor Chris Gutierrez, my advisor, whose labor and learning deeply inspired this project, argues that knowledge is an action. Learning, in our view, takes on a new valence when equity is at the center. Learning is about doing, and we've designed for teachers and young people to engage in new ways of doing, new ways of taking action. Young people taught teachers new practices in the process of reading and writing. So, for example, upon meeting, teachers and young people initially sat at tables. They sat around tables, brainstorming, and using a pen and paper to write. Of course, after a few minutes, young people began to refuse this process of writing. Now, they wanted to play, and it was in play that the ideas for their stories emerged, that dilemmas emerged. And their refusal to participate in writing in that way was very generative, because it showed teachers that there are multiple ways of reading and writing a story. Now, together they developed narratives in their actions. And remember, knowledge comes from action. So where do we go from here? As we've shared, the project has taken on a life of its own in the work of teachers, but most importantly, XJP has provided young people with new practices as they make movement toward justice and hope in their everyday lives. However, I'm still vexed by equity. I sometimes find equity difficult to imagine. I'm especially given our troubling times. I would argue that we have never known times without trouble. Our country's history is built on destruction and domination. The annihilation of the first people on this land and the enslavement of Black people are written on the walls of this very building. They're embedded in the oxygen we breathe. They're echoed throughout our homes across the wide expanse of time and space. If we want to get real about equity, how far back must we historicize the dilemmas that we currently face right now in this room? Our trouble began long before January 20th, 2017. Please know that hope is at the forefront of my practice. James Baldwin reminds us, I can't be a pessimist because I am alive. What stories will we tell that build on our cultural inheritance? How will we help young people, specifically those who are from non-dominant communities, transform their lives? That is our objective now. I urge you to consider what story you will tell about domination today and how we are chipping away at it through our resistance. The revolution, it continues with us in this room. While I love allies, I think we need accomplices in the trenches. Thank you to the selection committee, to Nicola, to David, to Jose, to the thinkers in this room who've inspired this project. Thank you. To the teachers who trusted us and worked tirelessly with us on this project, but most importantly to the Prince Hall Learning Center and the young people who shared their stories with us, shared their view of the world. This really is for them. Strawberry Fields forever.